Well, welcome to the Mid-Atlantic Center for Emergency Management Public Safety at Frederick Community College. I'm Kathy Francis, Executive Director. Today, in honor of Women's History Month, we're bringing 3 females in the public safety sector together to share their insight, their advice for our new women and men coming into the profession. Today, the theme is reaching back, making sure that we can share our expertise with all of those new to the field. So directly to my left is Kim Pratt. Kim is a detective with the Montgomery County Police Financial Crimes Section and has been employed as a police officer since 2005. Kim was assigned to the Financial Crimes Section in 2013 and currently investigates numerous financial fraud-related cases such as mail and identity theft, counterfeit credit cards, elder financial exploitation, and embezzlements. Kim, we welcome you.
Thank you.
Kim, when you think about your career, would you share something that you determine as a big win or a success story with us?
So I can think of a couple. I'll focus on one. This was probably, I'd say 15 years ago when I was newly on the road and working in Bethesda. We got a call for a suicidal subject who had barricaded himself in the basement and locked himself in his basement bedroom. And when we got there, there was a couple people already on scene and they just could not get through to him. So I gave it a try and I communicated with him and I developed a rapport. And I sympathized with him and we connected in a way because we realized that we were both Italian. I have a big Italian heritage background. My maiden name is actually Bonato, not Pratt. And we connected on that level. And I actually convinced him that, and I said I wanted to meet him and talk further. And I convinced him to come out of the room. He did not harm himself and we ended up getting him help. But there were, I think we found like between 35 and 40 knives in his bedroom after he was able to come out. But that was just a success and I received an award for that. And it was just, and it's gonna touch on some questions that we have here today about how women can use communication and sympathize with people. And ultimately, it was a successful outcome. So that is one incident that still sticks out to me. And I was a young officer when that happened.
Thank you, Kim. And that helped frame your career and we appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Is there anything else about your background that I didn't share that you would like to share?
My husband is also on the department. He is an academy instructor at our police academy. So we both obviously enjoy teaching. And we have a 3-year-old daughter at home. She is beautiful and we love her. But I think you hit on everything, just that I, use teaching as my outlet. It reduces stress at work. You have to find like a hobby and something to reduce your stress at the day-to-day work, especially law enforcement can be very stressful at times. So I use teaching as that outlet to reduce stress. And I really, truly enjoy my time teaching here. As stressful as it could be at times, I just love it. And it really, it's really helpful. And I love teaching the students. Harper is one of my students in my class. And I just look forward to every day coming and teaching you and the online classes. So, yeah.
Well, next I'd like to introduce you to Beth Celestini, who's a retired supervisory special agent with the U.S. Secret Service after 24 years of work in federal law enforcement and criminal justice. Throughout her distinguished career with the Secret Service, Beth excelled at the elite agency's investigative and protective missions, and she repeatedly was selected for complex, high-profile assignments. And it'll be fun to explore some of your work today. So thank you. You were also a voice for the children under the protective detail, and you advocated for some change in that area. Would you like to elaborate?
Yes, so it had been several years, many years since we had young children, protectees as we call them. And the girls, the Obama girls were very, very young when they came in. And it was kind of new to people to have such young protectees. And I volunteered to be one of their first agents, and you just have to make a connection with the children. Normally with protectee, we don't speak to them unless we're spoken to. We're supposed to be in the background doing our job. But when you have a second grader and a fifth grader, that's not gonna work. So we actually, I encouraged everybody to get to know the girls and to have that trust. So if something were to happen, they could trust us and come with us to safety should we need to do that. And, you know, from a supervisor standpoint, they said, well, you're not supposed to be talking to any of the protectees. Well, they're in second and fifth grade, you kind of have to talk to them. It's different. And so we adjusted and it worked out very, very well.
Harper, thank you for joining us today. Harper Fair is a 19-year-old volunteer firefighter and EMT studying at FCC for her Fire Service Administration degree. In her high school senior year, she attended the Emergency Services Technology Program in Carroll County, a program preparing high school students for a career in the fire and EMS service. Harper proceeded to be awarded Student of the Year at the end of the program. Congratulations.
Thank you.
After graduating, she hopes to become a career firefighter. I'd say you're well on your way.
Thank you.
So while we're talking about fire service and females in a sometimes a male-dominated field, you know, when we think about assertiveness, there are societal perceptions for women who are assertive. You certainly have to be assertive to be a firefighter and an EMT when the call was needed. The conditions were highly stressful and active. Talk to us a little bit about what you think about assertive women, any advice that you have on becoming more assertive and being comfortable with who you are.
Absolutely. So there's definitely a perception when women are assertive, some men see that as obnoxious or loud, and that's just because they're intimidated by women who are speaking up for themselves. So I feel like that's something to definitely keep in mind as a woman in this field, is that there are going to be people who are intimidated by your assertiveness, and that's okay. Just still speak up for yourself. If you want to lead the team, go ahead and lead it, because you're going to be amazing. And never be afraid to speak your mind if you see something going wrong, whether it's on the fire scene or whether it's, you know, in the station. Don't be afraid to speak up and say, hey, we need to change this, and that's not okay. So assertiveness is definitely important in this field, just to be able to protect yourself and others in the community.
Thank you. We're all clapping quite boldly inside for that comment. So thank you for that. So Beth, I'd like to circle back to you on mentorship. The theme of our webinar today was reaching back, really reaching back to help our new females as they enter the field and to share your wisdom. Did you have a mentor at any point in career, or did you maybe serve as a mentor? How did you find that relationship to be valuable to you?
Again, that's a great question. And I've had two mentors, both of whom were supervisors for me. And it just was a relationship of trust, and trust both ways. Sometimes supervisors don't want to show that they don't know something. And so there's the bravado, and there's, well, you should know that, and they don't. I didn't have that with these two supervisors. If I came to them with a question that they didn't know, they, you know, well, that's a great question. Let's go call somebody or this person or find out. So that the trust developed, and they knew how to nurture me and to give me training and to build me up and to have my confidence, you know, grow, and also to assign me tasks that I knew, or I may have been a little nervous about, but they knew I could do it. And so accomplishing those things really helped. They pushed me where I would maybe not have pushed myself. So that was great, but it was the trust that was built initially. So I would say that about my mentors. Now, being at the academy and teaching, you know, we were chatting about this earlier, you have younger folks coming onto the job. Well, you've sat in that exact same seat. So talking to them and helping them through some of the difficulties or insecurities that they may have is really, really important, because you have been there, and it's great to let them know that you got through it. This is how I did it. Maybe this is how you could do it, and to encourage them. So I've actually had the luxury of both.
That's wonderful. So you talked about your supervisors and both being male.
Yes.
Talk about how women can support each other in that type of relationship, whether it's a partnership or mentorship.
Yeah, that's also a very good point. The Secret Service, last time I checked, well, it is still the smallest federal law enforcement agency. And we have the fewest women. So if
Wow.
anybody is out there, we are definitely hiring. Although I'm retired, I still have a lot of pride. So we have the uniform division, we have the special agent side, so we're hiring. But having said that, most of my supervisors were male. I had very few women. In fact, I can't think of any direct supervisors, but I have very, very strong thoughts on how we can support each other. When you see men get into a disagreement or an argument, they yell at each other, they fight it up, they discuss it, they do whatever they do, and then they move on and they're buddies. Women don't do that.
No.
And you should get it out on the table, figure out how you're going to handle it, and go on.
Yeah.
Don't hold the grudges, support each other. If you see something, pull them aside. Hey, I don't know if you missed this or not, but you need to do this. Help them. Don't announce it in front of everybody, because you only look like a jerk. Be supportive where it's important, and let the other woman shine. Help them to shine. The guys do it all the time. It's
Yeah.
just not that obvious. Let the women shine and help them do it.
Thank you for that. Kim, let's dive into balance and boundaries. Throughout our careers, whether we're women or just full-time workers in general, we often talk about that challenge of finding that balance between home and work, and careers that you've worked in and have demanded a different work schedule. I also know you're a mom. You're a full-time worker, and working here part-time, and you're a mom. So talk about some strategies that you found that still felt comfortable by preserving your career, your successful upward motivation and progression.
So great question. So I think the first is that you shouldn't take work home with you. The saying, leave work at work. And I know being married to a cop, it's a little bit different. And my husband and I always had a rule that we wouldn't really talk about work at home. Because you don't want to bring it home with you and harp on the bad things or something that went on. But it also is important to de-stress and talk about things. My husband can relate to me and I can relate to him. So that also helps. But we try, if we need to talk about it, don't just harp on it. Don't talk about it a lot. And I think leaving work at work is a good thing to have. Also, having hobbies outside of work. I know you said that you do multiple things, like you have an LLC,
Right.
and exercising is also another great thing to reduce stress and having those boundaries. And when you're not working, I think it's great to try and devote time to your family and friends, and don't just hang out with coworkers, right, because then you're associating, you're going back to the work environment. So have an outside network of other friends and family, and doing things with your kids or daughters or sons. So taking that time to do things outside of work, I think, is important. And like I had mentioned earlier, that teaching is my stress reducer. Even though, it involves sometimes stress, I don't see it that way. And it really allows me to just focus on this and get my mind off of something that may have went wrong, or something that I might have seen at work that is just bothering me, and just totally get my mind off it. And I think that's important to have that as well, just a balance.
Harper, I assigned this question to you, and then I met you and I saw this amazing confidence that you brought to the table. So my question was, How did you build that confidence in the workplace?
I can definitely tell you it took a lot of time. When I first started out, like I said, I was first generation. The first day in EST, they asked me, Harper, can you name the 14 stations in Carroll County? And I just looked at him with this blank stare. I was like, I don't know. And having that kind of feeling that you don't know what you're doing, it's hard to build confidence with that. So the more knowledge I learned, the more confident I got over time. And I had a lot of support, like I said, from my volunteer stations that they were behind me. And when I did something well, they're like, that's amazing. Good job. You're working really hard. And I kind of learned, you know what, I can be confident in myself. And the biggest thing with my confidence is I've learned it's okay to make mistakes. I make mistakes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
I make mistakes all the time. When I was a career EMT in Pennsylvania, I would ask my preceptors or my partner after a call, what do you think I could have done better? And that helped me build my confidence. So I knew, hey, I made this mistake, but I'm going to fix it next time. So that was one of the biggest things that helped me build my confidence personally. I found it's helped a lot of my friends as well, thinking it that way.
So I appreciate the seeking feedback and learning when things go wrong. When there's negativity that you may receive that you feel you don't deserve, what do you do?
I've gotten better at it. Like I said, I used to take it super hard and just beat myself up about it. But biggest thing is, even if it's unnecessary negativity, I can't control what other people think. And as long as I think I did a good job, that's what matters to me. And if I think, hey, maybe I could have done better on that certain subject, then I know to improve on next time. But it is the biggest thing to know that you can't change what other people think about you. You want to focus on what you think of yourself and if you're proud of yourself. And that's what helps me deal with that unnecessary negativity from people who might, be jealous, or maybe there's nitpicky, just things like that. That's really helped me through the negativity.
The next question is open to all three of you, and I'll be interested in hearing from you. After reading your backgrounds and understanding how your careers evolved, you've all stepped into a world where science plays a big role than you probably expected when you first signed on to law enforcement or firefighting and EMT. From sophisticated DNA evidence and forensic investigation to the white collar crimes and sophistication of technology, and certainly to EMT and firefighting with different codes and buildings and medical care. Talk to me about that. How did that evolve? How did you stay current? It's amazing, your work, and how you truly do now have the scientific knowledge and background. So who's going first?
Doesn't matter.
I
Go
can
ahead.
go first. So going into fire and EMS, I started with fire classes first. It was a lot more complicated than I thought it'd be. We learned about fire chemistry, fire dynamics, smoke patterns, how the smoke travels through the house with the ventilation that we create. So fire is very complicated compared to just putting water on fire. You have to know if I open, if I open this window, the smoke and fire are going to travel all the way up to the least path of resistance. So path of least resistance. So that was one important thing I learned with EMS. I had to learn about anatomy, physiology, how medications work with other medications. And the longer I've been in this field, the more I've learned. I've learned from my patients, especially. That's one of the biggest things you can learn from your patients. Some patients have had diseases I've never heard about, and I ask them about it, and they teach me how it works and what medications they take. And it's really amazing to be able to learn from other people, especially the community I'm working with.
I would say that the Secret Service does a really good job of staying on top of stuff. And that may sound silly, but we evolve with everything that's going on because the bad guys are evolving.
Absolutely.
So, you always want to stay a couple steps ahead of them. So we've got people out there learning stuff, bringing it back to the Secret Service. We've opened numerous divisions to keep up with that and the training. And we're good also at recognizing if someone has a certain talent and kind of steering them that way. Mine was not computers, so I was not steered that way. But we have a ton of people that is their thing. And we have phenomenal people in computers that are just eons above and beyond anything else. So I would have to say that we're just really open to that. And it helps our equipment work better for us. I'm sure it's the same for
Oh,
you
yeah,
guys.
absolutely.
You know, if a radio is getting an upgrade, so to speak, well, then we want it because again, we're ahead of the bad guys with our closed communications, and it makes us do our job better.
Absolutely. So I think in the white collar field and financial crimes, the evolving technology is actually helping us in a way track and catch the criminals better. Because years ago, let's say like 20, 30 years ago, you know, the bad guys would send a letter through the mail. It's done, but not done as much. They still do it, but they would mail a letter. Now it's email, it's text messages, it's phone calls. Well, that's all trackable. I mean, you can find IP addresses, you can track phone numbers, you can do, you know, satellite triangulation and put their phones at the scene of a crime. So even though, you know, if these crimes are getting more complex and sophisticated, it's allowing the police and the government to track them a lot better in a way. So, and then to touch on what you said, to go to training and get certifications. Our department is huge on getting training and certified. I know you probably do it too. So
Absolutely.
when you, like, there's a conference coming up, there's a big fraud conference in April that we're all going to, and we'll find the newest current trends that are going on and hear how other agencies are combating them. So I think that's a good way to go to the training, get the certifications, and network with people.
We talked about mentorship and partnerships with other women. Networking is really a skill. It's one that our young people have a little challenge to learn, especially as they learn in a remote environment. You know, it's often said that men will network upward, women network laterally. Do any of you have any advice on networking and how to really start to build your network and that support system?
Just do it.
Yeah, really.
I mean, I have two new, you know, networking friends right here, right now. You just have to reach out, and I can't tell you, even though we have 3 separate jobs, but we're in the same field overall, I think you guys would agree that talking to people is how you get your job
Oh,
done,
absolutely.
right?
Communication.
The
Yeah.
communication, and it's not on a phone or a computer, it's the face to face. And I think the younger folks have to make a bigger effort in doing that because they're so used to their phones. And I'm older and the phones came later. A lot of these folks have phones, you know, the minute they're born, that kind of thing, and they lose the one-on-one. And that's a shame. So I would just try to do it and look at people in the eye, introduce yourself, find some sort of commonality and go from there.
I would agree.
Absolutely. That's where I actually got my job through lateral connections. Working in Pennsylvania, I met the business manager of the county I worked for, and she saw me in EMT class and was like, "Hey, do you want a job?" And I said, "Absolutely. Once I get my license, I would love to work in Pennsylvania." So getting those connections is how you get those recommendations to those jobs.
Right.
And it's also, I hate to say this, but sometimes it's who you know, sometimes not what you know. Not saying that's a good or a bad thing, but you know, networking and getting your name out there, meeting people can open so many doors for you. You know, because then they know you and they know who you are. So yeah, I think it's great. I think you should do a little bit of both. I think you should network laterally and also upward. I think you should have networks with both sections. I know with our department, I am friends with multiple, you know, people, men and women above me, and then above them, and then along my same playing field, because you never know when an issue might come up and you might have to go to your boss's boss.
Right.
So it's good to just have all those relationships in place ahead of time, because you never know what will happen.
2 concepts I want to talk with you about, and then we'll wrap it up and allow you to share whatever you'd like with our audience. And one is career advancement. We're very proud to say that the number of women in public safety educational programs and in the field is slowly increasing. We're really proud about that, about how we can make change in the gender dispersion. There are still barriers to advancement that we are aware of. Any strategies on how to overcome those barriers And then the other topic was professional development. What does that mean to you and how do you find time and make time for professional development? So if you want to tackle any of those two questions and give some good advice for our students.
I would say for their professional development, take any kind of training that comes your way.
Absolutely.
Even if you've never heard of it, but they're offering it to you, take it.
Yep.
You never know who you're gonna meet, right?
Mhm, absolutely.
And
With
who knows?
networking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, exactly. And who knows, that might be your thing and you just didn't realize it. So take the training. That is a mistake I did. I didn't take enough of it. But definitely do that. And what was the other part?
Barriers to advancement.
I would say I would say present your best self. And even if you're not perfect at something, don't worry about it. I think women have a tendency to say, well, I don't think I can really do that. And guys are like, I can do that. And they've never even heard of it before. So get a little bit more of that. And then figure it out as you go and ask trusted folks to help you. If you don't know something, go to the person who does know. There's nothing worse than trying to do something and make a mistake that cannot be corrected because you didn't go ask someone who knew how to do something and you didn't. So that would be mine.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a story for a barrier that I guess happened to me, but in a good way. So when I first applied for the fraud position back in 2013, I was pretty young, age and on the department. Typically, when someone applies for a detective position, they have an investigative background. They, can say that they've done years of experience as an investigator, and I just didn't have that. So I had that going against me. But I remember that the interview panel and my boss that ultimately chose me, said, even though you seemed like very young and inexperienced, I was willing to take that risk. And you ended up being a great fit for our unit. So shame on me for thinking that someone that was young on the department and didn't have that much time, ultimately he was saying that maybe I just didn't know what I was doing, but ended up that I, became a successful investigator and was a great fit for the unit. And he always tells the story. He actually just retired and told the same story over again. And he's like, I'm so glad I picked you. And I didn't, even though you were so young. So I think that not only as a female, but, my age and inexperience was definitely a barrier in that regard. Yeah. So.
One thing I'd like to end on a high note, and anything else you want to share, is I'd love to hear your joys. I love this job because if you want to share that or any other advice you'd like to share with our young people, we appreciate it.
I've definitely had a few of those moments where I think how much I love my job. One of them was just a simple call to a nursing home. The man had stubbed his toe and we were just patching him up a little bit. And then he looked at me. He's like, I'm getting tired kind of being here right now. And that obviously broke my heart. It's so sad to see the older generation kind of losing that hope. And I was able to connect with him over cookies, actually, at Kenny's Market specifically. And I told him that I wanted to have a cookie with him sometime. He got this huge smile on his face, and it just warmed my heart. And it felt so good to be able to just get that small little connection with him, and it hopefully made a difference in his life. I hope it did. It made a difference in mine.
Yeah.
But that really stuck with me and made me really love my job, and just that's always been in my mind ever since.
That's great.
Well, for me, being at the Secret Service, I saw history every day and heard and saw things that I'll never be able to talk about. So that's kind of neat. Come home, be like, wow, that was so cool. I love my job. But I also felt that the Secret Service puts your purpose into what you do. And without that part of it, it could all fall apart. So you do feel a part of a team and a very important part. So you felt like everything you did mattered and there was a reason for it. So, and I, of course, I loved watching the girls, working with the girls, went to school every day. I mean, that was a lot of fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I guess I could say I love my job in multiple ways. I really love the people that I work with. We have a great group of investigators, and we've all been there for so long that I feel like it's family. And we each know when something is going wrong or is bothering someone, because that's how long we've worked with each other. So I love the people I work with, but specifically instances that I can say I love my job is when I work like a case from start to finish, there's a conclusion, and the victims get a restitution and I feel good about it because like I charged someone, or we got their money back. They lost like $2 million and we were able to get it back for them. I mean, that's a lot of money for someone. It might be 2 million or 2,000, still getting that money back, or charging someone, just having a good outcome from working a case always makes me say, like, I really love what I'm doing. I really love this job, and makes me happy and makes me feel good, that we're ultimately helping people, so, which is what it's all about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And they say that a public safety career is a career of service and it's a calling. And I truly believe that. So thank you for answering that calling and continuing to serve your communities, our nation, and now our students and those who will follow behind you and those who you're going to lead in the future. So we have absolute confidence that you will be doing that. So thank you again. Is there anything else you would like to share? The floor is yours. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
I'm
thank you
anxious
for
to
having
show
us.
this to our students.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Definitely.